Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. So today we've got some F1 2020 content. This is my championship series where I start from the back of the grid on 110 AI as Lewis Hamilton and see if I can win the championship. So it's 5 lights, they're all out and let's go. We've got to get past Latifi early on and we do that and we get Giovinazzi off the line. Now I didn't want to go through the middle of Russell and Grosjean because I thought it was too risky. It's wet, it's Australia, I didn't want to lose a wing, so I tried to sit behind. There's a little bit of touch in there with Russell and a little bit of a touch with Magnussen. I get on the grass on the inside, but I do keep the car point in a nice straight line and we managed to keep ourselves clean through turn 1. So no crashes, no wing damage so far. Magnussen sends up the inside of Raikkonen and I see the gap and go for it myself, get myself through to P15 and leave myself on the back of Danny Kvyat and Kevin Magnussen. This is a beautiful little move down the inside. I really was getting squeezed against the wall, but I managed to get through cleanly. I didn't impede them too much, and I had the racing line, so I got through and passed. Magnussen got past Kvyat, but I got past the worst 6 cars early on, which is really important in the wet if you want to try and win on 110 AI. Now I'm right at the back of Pierre Gasly. The visibility is really difficult, so I couldn't see where he was going to brake, but I knew he was in a big queue, so I decided to send it down the inside. There wasn't anything he could do. By the time he saw me, I was past, and now I'm into P12 on lap 1. In a wet Australia, so I had a really good lap 1 and managed to get past quite a few cars there, and it's left me on the back of Lando Norris. Now I know that the wet weather was going to last quite a few laps, so I knew it was going to last till around about half the race at least, so I knew that I was going to have to get some moves done in the wet, which isn't ideal, and Australia's not a circuit that I'm the most confident on, but we had a really good start to the race and I did think there was a chance of a podium, if not even a win, because I got past so many cars so early on. I knew that it wasn't going to hold me up too much. Now in these races it's important to get the moves done quite early because Verstappen, Albon and Bottas will pull away from you if you don't get through the pack quite early on. So they were already starting to pull a gap, but I was right in the back of the midfield and I knew that if I could line up a move, probably not down the main straight, but on the second part of the straight, I could probably get past Lando Norris. So coming out of turn 1 and turn 2 and you needed to get a good exit, and then there was going to be a chance into turn 3 that I could lunge it up the inside of Lando Norris. I didn't take enough curb on the inside. In turn 2, I was a little bit twitchy and I got a bit of a slide going on and I knew there was no chance of getting past Lando Norris. So we move on to lap 4 now. I've spent a couple of laps behind Norris. I was struggling on the tyres. I'm just on an ABS off, so I was struggling a little bit locking up its corners, but I managed to get back onto Lando Norris, and this is now the moment that I have to get the move done. I couldn't wait any longer. The midfield group are just holding me up. I can see the guys in front are pulling away from me. You can see on the mini-map that they're starting to get a gap. So at this point, I know I've got to send it. I wasn't that close to Lando Norris, but again, the visibility's poor. I thought I could probably get up the inside, but I don't fully commit here, and there's a little bit of a touch there. There's a little bit of argy-bargy, but I slide my way through, and now I'm up into P11 on lap 5, and we've got Sebastian Vettel up next in the Ferrari, who isn't the fastest on this game. So lap 6, we've moved on 1 lap now, and another same place. I want to try another move. I take a lot of curb on the inside at turn 1 and a really nice line in turn 2, and that leaves me right in the back of Sebastian Vettel. This one is going to be a lot cleaner because I'm already alongside going into the braking zone. Vettel can do nothing. I take the racing line. I've taken the full line of the track. He couldn't do anything. I'm past now into P10 and I've Carlos Sainz up in front. But it was a really nice move, nice and clean. I was happy with that one in the wet, and you can see the visibility improves so much when you get out of the dirty air of the cars in front. I can really see the track now, but obviously that's going to get impaired again. We're on the back of Carlos Sainz now, and suddenly the visibility gets a lot worse. We really praying for this rain to stop because it'll make the overtaking a lot easier once we get to DRS. But I'm on the back of Carlos Sainz, and I can see him just in front of me. A nice exit out of turn 2 again. Carlos Sainz is maybe a little bit further ahead than Vettel was, so I knew I was going to lunge it his inside because I didn't want to do the same thing I did to Lando Norris. I didn't really want to make any touching, so I just upset him a little bit, and he has to try and defend the inside. At this point, I can go up his inside coming out of turn 4 and 5, which shocked him, but I managed to get the move done, which was really nice and clean. I was really happy with that one. Again, another important move because the midfield runners were holding me up quite badly, but I managed to get past. Now we've got Esteban Ocon and Charles Leclerc as the next 2 cars. We're on lap 8 of the Grand Prix. Now it only took me half a lap to get back onto Esteban Ocon. I managed to gain enough time. I was gaining a lot on these guys when I wasn't in dirty air. So it's just about setting up the move again on Esteban Ocon. Again, I'm quite far behind. I've tried a different move on Lando Norris and then Carlos Sainz, and I've tried a different move once again on Ocon, but I managed to make it a lot cleaner. I managed to go right up his inside. I send it again. By the time Ocon notices that I'm there, I'm already past, and he couldn't defend the move. I'm on the racing line, and I managed to get through quite easily. Again, another lap goes past, and Charles Leclerc is next up. We're just picking these people off, but we know it's really important. If we want to win the championship, I need every point possible. So getting through these guys as quick as I can, and then having a run at the top 3. Now, Charles Leclerc, I did hear on the radio, you'll hear it right now, that Leclerc gets an issue, and know that if I sit behind him, I'll lose 2 to 3 seconds a lap. So whenever you hear that in the F1 2020 game, these cars slow down so much, it's ridiculous. And if you're in a difficult track like Singapore or Australia, somewhere that you can't really overtake, it can really impede your race. So I knew that it was going to be important. I couldn't get past him at the turn 3, 4 or 5, but this is where, at the end of sector 1, I decided to use the arrest and just send it down his inside. It's not really an overtaking manoeuvre, especially online in league racing. But I managed to get that done against the computer, and I was really happy with that one. That left me in P7, so a good spot now, and I'm on for quite good points. Now, we're coming up to the pit stops now. Bottas and Verstappen have come in for softs. And I've stayed out because I couldn't come in. Bottas was in and it would have impeded me. So I've set it down the inside of Stroll. I haven't committed enough, but he's left the door open. So I've just gone through. It was clean. There wasn't any issue with that move. But he just left the door way too open and I decided to get through. But you can see the rain stopped now. And the strategies have changed quite a bit because Albon's gone into the hard, Perez went into the hard, but Bottas and Verstappen have both gone on soft, so it left me with a strategic decision. Do I decide to go on the soft or do I decide to go onto the hard tyres? Now, I was really weighing up, would it really matter? Because where I was behind Perez and Stroll anyway. I just got past Stroll there. If he came onto the softs, it wouldn't really matter. To be honest, I was thinking I was probably on for a P4 or P5 at maximum, so I didn't think it mattered too much, and I didn't want to risk having 2 stops because, you know, pit stops can go wrong, and you can. If I was going to come out behind the midfield runners on the softs, I didn't really want to have to do too much overtaking. So I went for the hard and just committed. And at this point, there wasn't really much going on. You know, the middle of the race was pretty basic. Once we got onto the hard tyres, it was purely about catching Perez. Now, Sainz and Norris were challenging me early on, but they were on soft, and they ended up having to pit again, so it didn't really matter too much. Their battle was it was short-lived, and then it was all about chasing down Perez. I managed to catch him. I was around about 4 seconds down coming out the pit lane, so it took me quite a few laps to get onto his back, and I got a penalty from taking too many corner cuts. It was poor driving from me, but at this point, I can set Perez up. It's taken me a while to catch him. I was going to send it down his inside, but he closes the door. I go around the outside, I leave him car's width, but I'm round now. And even though I've got a 3-second penalty, I've been catching him at around about second a lap. So I was thinking maybe I could pull this gap out. And as you can see, by lap 29, I was 3 seconds ahead. Now I had a penalty and 2 warnings, so I knew I had to be careful on this last lap if I wanted to take 10 points. But I managed to get the position, and we've also caught Albon at a really quick rate. He was around about 11 seconds ahead when I came out of the pits. So to get back to 3.5 seconds was really quite positive, and I was gaining quite quick. Ricciardo had a brilliant race in the Renault. He was in P3, and Verstappen dominated in P1, which was an absolute travesty for me because I really didn't want him to be running away with the championship. But first round he did really well, and you can see there it's an absolute disaster. We lose P5 because we've got a second penalty. All I needed to do was keep it clean. I had the gap, but I took too much curb in the fast little left-right, and it harmed my race massively. We lose 2 points there, and we are going to come up with just 8 points from this race. So it wasn't a brilliant Australian GP, but I knew that was going to be a difficult one to overtake. We finished P6. Verstappen wins, Bottas second, and Ricciardo P3. But yeah, that's the first episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Drop it a like if you did, and subscribe.